Thank you for your interest in the Retained Recruiter show powered by iIntro. Before the show starts, I have a small favour to ask of you. Our goal is to provide you with the most insightful, helpful and practical recruitment knowledge and know-how from the best in the recruitment industry. If you like this channel and enjoy watching our content, hit the subscribe button to get notified as soon as we upload a new episode. Thank you again, and as ever, we're rooting for your success. Now, time for the show.
Hello and welcome to the Retained Recruiter show. My name is James.
And my name is Jo, and welcome everybody. It's an action-packed session that we've got for you today. And as you can tell, we are not alone. We are joined by a very special guest who, James, I think you're gonna give him an introduction now.
Yes, I will. But just before we start and introducing him, I'm a bit offended because just before we start, I had to put on some headphones today. I don't normally have them, so Paul thinks I work in a call center. But anyway, welcome to Paul Hickey. Welcome to Paul Hickey. He's the managing director of Grass Greener Group and also, more importantly, the co-founder of iIntro. I've known Paul now for 11 years, so I'm delighted to have him with us here today. What I think is a very interesting topic for people. It's one that engages people and sets them apart. But Paul, why don't you just give a brief description of you, yourself, your business, and just let everybody know a bit more about who you are.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you. Got into recruitment 2006, did a year, set up Grass Greener Group in 2007, grew quite quickly in contingency, mid-level search, let's say. Although I'm reluctant to say search and contingency in the same breath, and very nearly went out of business when the recession came around, sort of 2008, 2009. We had a lot of contingency business with one particular firm, plus a few other things, and it just stopped overnight. So 6 months without any income. So we had to wind right back and almost not start again, but go right back to humble beginnings and come up with something different. Which is what we did. And one thing that we realized is even in times of recession, or as we've seen recently with COVID, etc., is that people will still spend money. People still have money to spend if it's the right proposition and if they're going to receive value from that. So we decided that we wanted to go as a recruitment business. We wanted to do executive search and we wanted to go 100% retained, which was a bit of a pipe dream. We didn't really know how to do it, but we decided that's what we wanted to do. So it took us, between 12 and 24 months to take our business to what was pretty much a 100% retained model, 3-stage payments. And with that, we developed some technology to support what we were doing. And we came up with this really brave statement, which was, we will replace anybody who leaves for up to a period of 12 months. So I say up to, depending on obviously how well the negotiation went in terms of were they paying 40% or were they paying 20%? So it was a bargaining chip. So that's what happened. Obviously, the technology and the process that ensued became iIntro, which we in 2013, so 10 years ago, created a separate company. So that was born out of our recruitment company, and obviously we've sold to hundreds upon hundreds of companies globally who now benefit from all those mistakes we made, which obviously turned out to something today which actually works really well.
Yeah. Well, Paul, it says no issue with making mistakes because it's one of those things where when you make mistakes, some people say you win or lose, but we say we win or learn. So obviously you've learned an awful lot from that, and obviously that's what we want to pick on today. And I think I just want to start off, Jo, if I may, just sort of jump in with one of the points that you spoke about, Paul, there, because it's almost like you're the godfather of offering free replacements.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it commercially, it makes sense. We're not, I suppose in recruitment, we're quite bold in as much as we have offered up to 24 months. I mean, for senior placements where, we negotiate a full fee, let's say, if the circumstances are right, we'll offer up to 24 months. And the reason we can do that is we quite simply measure the performance. How many candidates do we place? How long do they stay in situ? We measure that dynamically backwards, so 3-month snapshots. And what we find is that we've never had any worse than 96% retention over a 12-month period. So as a business, very simply, if you place 100 people throughout that year, we know that only 4 will leave, or you place 50 candidates, you know that only 2 will leave. But what we've experienced is that by offering that, it gives peace of mind to the potential client at that time. And if you're up against, one of the Shrek companies or somebody else that you're competing with in your marketplace recruitment wise, then that might just be the differentiator that pops it over the fence and into your favor. So we've never been shy in talking about it. We've received a lot of criticism.
Let's just take it back, Paul. Let's just take it back, because let's go back to your days prior to you having this this solution, if you like. Because were you like every other recruitment business which had a, if you like, a sliding scale rebate system? And what was the catalyst for you to make that offer?
Yeah, we've had a 100% money back guarantee for 3 months. Never been a fan, and we've never done a sliding scale rebate. I don't think that offers great value. They take somebody on. It's not just a recruitment fee, of course, that they pay, and they get 25% back or 50% back. It's neither here nor there in the grand scheme of things. But offering a replacement is important, or offering 100% money back guarantee. What we found is that maybe once or twice a year, when things fail and these policies or guarantees get called upon, we have to jump into shape, and we have to commit to what we've said we're going to commit to. But what we found is, even with the 100% money back guarantee, the client wasn't really interested in that, because they still wanted to work with us. So what's the point in giving them the money back to them, for them to give us it back when we make a placement? So they just come back and say, well, can you just replace them anyway? So we took, a number of years ago, we actually took the 100% money back out of our terms and conditions, because it was almost irrelevant. And pretty much now, on every search that we do, we'll offer a 12-month replacement policy.
And at what point does that kick in? So, for example, would that kick in if they left, for example, or if they were fired?
It kicks in from start date. So the day that they walk, even though we get paid upon signature, they will, within 7 days, they actually, it kicks in from the day they start. Now, basically, for any reason, there is a caveat in our terms and conditions which falls around redundancy, where then that becomes void, but the opportunity is redundant, so they don't need to replace anybody. But apart from that, if they get fired or they leave or whatever for any reason, then we'll cover them. That's not an issue.
So I know one of the big questions that I know you get a lot, I know we get a lot, I know, this is a big discussion around not just the recruitment industry, but also those that sort of supply into the recruitment industry, is how can you be so sure that people aren't going to leave? I know there's 2 types of recruiters. One recruiter that, talks about the fact that we partner with our clients to enable them to make more informed hiring decisions. But then there's others who say, look, there's only so much you can do. We can provide a candidate, but we can't control who the client takes on and why. So it'd be really great if we could hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. Well, there's usually 2 ways to look at something, isn't there? There's sort of emotionally and logically, or commercially. Emotionally, we can't control what happens after we've placed a candidate. We can't control their management style, their onboarding, what happens in the candidate's life, what happens commercially in that business. So if you look at it emotionally, you're absolutely right. But if you look at it commercially, if you think about, let's say Mercedes will offer you a 3-year warranty on your car. Now, Mercedes can't guarantee how you're going to drive that car, how you're going to maintain that car within reason. But what they do know, if we work it back into our terms, for every 100 cars that they sell, perhaps 3 or 4 have to be repaired in some way, shape or form. So commercially, they've factored that into their pricing. So they know that it's not an issue. In a bad year, they might end up with 5 or 6. In a good year, 1 or 2. But they know on average, over a period of time, that because their cars are built to a particular standard through a particular process, they are quality checked as such. They know what the results are going to be. Therefore, they can factor it into their commercial offering, and it makes sense to them. So when you look at it like that, why wouldn't you? I mean, have you ever had a problem with Amazon, for example? If you're an Amazon Prime member, you call them up and they fix it instantly. And you go back to them time and time again. And that's what it's all about. So in my business, can I afford to replace 4%? Yes, because I'm probably getting an extra 20% of business just by making the offer. So I'm 16% up. It's a no-brainer. It's only a no-brainer if you've got a good retention rate. If you in your employee retention rate as a business owner, recruitment business owner, if you're looking at, well, we placed 50 people and 10 of them left, I'd think again about making that offer. What I think about is how can I actually improve the work I do,
exactly,
and put more foundation into it, do more due diligence, do more assessment. Because if Grass Greener Group and all the other, I mean, we're speaking now from an iIntro perspective, we know that across the board, Grass Greener is not exclusive in experiencing those kind of new employee retention rates. Almost everybody in the iIntro network experiences them, and it's quite simply because of the due diligence and the process and assessment that goes on throughout the search.
I think, Paul, I know, you've been ridiculed and people saying this is commercial suicide because of some of the points that Joe just made, which was, you can't control the individual, and we can't control the individual. We always hear the example, I'm leaving. I know I only started 4 months ago or 8 months ago, but my partner is relocating to the other side of the world. And you've had instances, I know, where the client has come back to you and then said, well, they've left. Said, well, okay, let's replace them. And I think it's that one of the things we try to do here is actually find what are the angles, and this is where I think, Paul, you found the angle. This is where you created the angle. What are the angles that you can use that adds value to the client proposition, which means you can charge a higher price, which, as you said, it's then factored into the things happen type thing. So I think it's people just don't understand that. And one of the things that Joe and I do when we talk to recruiters, I mean, first of all, we try and say, what's the fallout rate in a typical employer environment, and we'll ask questions. Of the last 10 people you've hired, how many are still there after 1 year, Mr. or Mrs. Employer? And they typically give us answers 6, 7, or 8. So we know the client has a retention issue. So retention is a really big issue. And once we've asked we're talking to recruiters first. We ask, what do you think your clients, the employers you work with, what do you think they'll say? And they will say about 6, 7, or 8. Okay. Then we say, okay, now think about the people. So I'm asking, this is a question for the audience listening today. Ask yourself the question that Paul answered for his business. Of the last, think over the last 12 months or the last 24 months. Think about the people you placed. Do you track them? And if you don't, you should be. But have a look back. How many of the people you placed are still in the job? And when Joe and I ask recruiters that, they say, well, pretty much all of them. Okay. So listen, you're already very good, but you haven't found a way to use that in your value proposition to your clients. And what this is doing is, so you've already got a relatively low risk. Of course, it's a risk.
What I found there, James, is that question is the most important question that an employer can ask of a recruiter. Of the candidates you place, how long do they stay in situ? So never mind what your network is like, LinkedIn. Never mind what your experience is in their industry or how many prestigious clients you've placed with. It's all nonsense. If you ask a client, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to work with Mr. Recruiter who's got 10 years experience in your industry? They've placed with all the big wigs. They'll do it a little bit cheaper, but 30% of their candidates leave within the first 12 months. Or would you rather work with me? And whilst I might not know everything about your products or your marketplace, what I can evidence to you through our system is that 96% of our candidates stay over 12 months and 93% stay over 2 years. It's a no-brainer. When you open up their mind to thinking about longevity, which is really what a recruitment partnership should be about, we should all be thinking from the very beginning that we're not here as recruiters to place candidates and they're not there to hire candidates. Because the obvious question is, if we placed a candidate and they left after 6 months, would you be happy? The answer is no. So what about 12 months? Still no. So in their mind, they've probably not thought about it, but it's your job as a recruiter to advise them and get them thinking a little bit differently, that this is all about longevity. And what are the costs and what are the implications if somebody does leave in the first 12 months? Because it's pretty scary, because it's not just the recruitment costs, of course, it's all the onboarding, the salary, the car, the training, the negative impact that it might have on their business, on their team, on them as individuals. So there's so many things around it that make it really expensive, typically 3 times salary. Hire somebody on 50 grand, they leave within the first 12 months, and it's going to cost them 150 grand. Typically, that's the reality of it. So, as consultants, we're here to give them a reality check because it's in the best interests of the relationship moving forward. And if after that they don't want to work with you, that's fine, isn't it? We don't win them all, and we don't want them all. Paul,
some of that the stuff that goes on social media with regard to when we put this topic out there, a lot of it comes from contingent recruiters, because if you were a contingent recruiter, I know you no longer are. If you're a contingent recruiter, and would you offer clients, if you're a contingent recruiter, would you offer clients up to 12 months free replacement? No. Why not?
Because the due diligence, you don't have to. If you're working in a contingent environment, then it's got to be high volume, low quality. That's the only thing it can be. I don't care what anybody tells me. I've been doing this long enough to know the difference. Just like if somebody came along to my house and said, "I'll build that extension for you. Let me build it for you, and just pay me at the end if you're happy with it." Yeah, I'd have reservations about that. If somebody came along and said, "I'll build your extension, and I want 15 grand up front, 15 grand when the roof goes on, and 15 grand once it's complete," then that sounds sensible to me. So,
can you send that build around for 45 grand? I'll have him around my house for 45 grand.
To make sure the roof's on properly. But yeah, so on a contingency, you just can't. You're not working on quality. Let's face it, you're working on volume. And I would hazard a guess that any company that works with recruiters on a contingency method, both the recruiter and the company would be experiencing, at worst, probably a 60% new employee retention rate, and at best, probably an 80, maybe even 85 if they're really, really good and really, really niche, and they've got all these long-lasting relationships and things like that, where they've got a little bit more time, then it might be an 85%, but definitely not anymore. I've just never seen. We've dealt with thousands of recruitment companies, and I've never seen statistics. So remember here, there's a point. We're not talking about staff turnover. We're talking about new employee retention over the first 12 months. That's the most expensive time to get it wrong.
Yeah, I think Paul as well. I think one of the differences, the reason why you can afford to offer this isn't just because of the fee charge, it's because of the service that you provide. Because again, someone was asking me earlier on today, what's the difference between a contingent recruiter and a retained recruiter, particularly an iIntro trained recruiter from our perspective. And simplistically, the role of a recruiter is to identify people with the right knowledge, skills, and experience. It's candidate identification. We search the databases, we find somebody as quick as we can, and people are always going to argue about the quality issue you mentioned, Paul. So let's just park that to one side for a moment. But it's purely about candidate identification. You hand them over, and then you leave it to the client. Now the difference here is, when we work as a retained recruiter, we don't just hand over the candidates. We assess and evaluate the candidates to predetermined criteria, pre-agreed with the client. Yeah, so we're doing a lot more work. We're doing the work on behalf of the client. We're doing a lot of work for them. We can do it better than them because this is our job. We do it day in, day out, and we can do it more cost effectively. And I'm choosing my words carefully there. More cost effectively because actually we're not losing people. We're not losing 30% of the people. And so it's when you have that service in place, and that's why the vast majority of people do not offer free replacements. Because they live in fear that actually. If you've got a 30% failure rate, then that's go back to your Mercedes example, which I really like, by the way, because I think people will be able to associate that. Well, actually, if they had 30% of their cars failing, well, first of all, they wouldn't be able to charge the high prices because there'd be quality issues and reputational damage. So it doesn't happen that way. So it comes back to you measuring, the service you deliver. But the reason why you got the 96%, I would posit, is because you don't just focus on candidate identification.
Of course, and that's the point. It's not retained works, doesn't it? Because I've met a lot of recruiters and I've met a lot of contingency recruiters that want to do retained, but I've not met a lot of retained recruiters who like to do contingency. You see, so it works. And what we've done, obviously, with what came out of Grass Greener in those early days was iIntro, and what we've allowed people to do is take it to that next level. It's very difficult, isn't it, to evidence why. Because the price isn't that different, is it? If you're charging, let's say 25% for argument's sake, a lot of contingency recruiters charge 25% and a lot of retained recruiters charge 25%. That's kind of in the UK market or the Western world, that's typically where it is. So it's not easy to go to a company and say, stop doing that and start doing this. And we want 2/3 of the fee, which might be 15 or 20 grand in lots of instances, before you even see a candidate. It's almost unthinkable, isn't it? It's hard enough to get on a contingency basis. It's hard enough to get what we used to call send outs. It's hard enough to arrange interviews for clients and candidates. Never mind asking them for 15 grand before they've seen anybody. But it's achievable. It's achievable for people who do retained anyway. And it becomes even more achievable when they start using the iIntro methodology, process, technology, because that's what it's been built for. It's been built to be able to evidence why they should work with you, why they should work on a retained basis, what the features are, what the benefits are, and what that's going to look like. So I hope that answers the question anyway.
I think it does. I think it does answer the question. I said the same thing that you said earlier on, James. You know, I mean, I speak to recruiters all the time, and if I said to them, out of the last 10 people you placed, how many of them are still there a year later, I wonder how many recruiters would actually know that the answer to that question. So I think when we talk about offering a 12-month free replacement policy, there's a lot more that businesses need to look at, isn't there, before they start offering free replacements? Because it's not really about the free replacement. It's about the clients you choose to work with and the value of your proposition and how demonstrable and tangible it is and how you evidence it and measure it and track it. Because the free replacement comes from all of that. So if there was a business out there, Paul, that thought, you know what, I like what he's saying and I like the idea of a free replacement, but I don't really know how to start confidently offering that. What would your advice be to a business if they wanted to sort of try and transition over to retained and or free replacement?
Well, James mentioned recruitment consultant, and I think there's two jobs there, isn't it? There's been a recruiter and there's been a consultant, and it's that consultative piece, Joe, that I think is really important. And it's not sitting down with a client and talking about the vacancy and who they need. It's about sitting down with them, having a business conversation about numbers. The question you've just posed, if you hired 10 people, how many are still in position after 12 months? It's not going to be 10. So I don't care what business it is, whether they're hiring technical engineers or they're hiring salespeople or customer service people or whatever niche you're in. The realistic answer is if you hire 10, they'll be lucky to have 7 or 8 through contingency recruitment methods or traditional recruitment methods. So straight away, that's a 20 or 30% failure rate. So the simple question is, if you had a 20 or 30% failure rate in any other area of your business, whether it was finance, operations, technical, whatever, would you consider looking at it? There's only one answer, isn't there? So straight away, this is a different conversation to what they may have had with a recruiter before. As part of the iIntro offering, of course, there's the bad hire calculator, which statistics come from an independent survey. They're not our statistics. So they're verified as independent by the Recruitment and Employment Confederation. So obviously the calculator has been built around that. So by entering 5 metrics there and then on the spot with them on your laptop, you can very easily, using their numbers, work out what their new employee retention rate and what the cost of a bad hire is in their business. And then when you've picked them up off the floor and they've had a drink of water, because they're always surprised.
Hi.
Then it becomes a conversation about what their process looks like, where it's going wrong. We quite often find when we're doing these sort of deep dives into their challenges that they're facing, is that a lot of their candidates are hired on skills and knowledge, experience, education, which is normal. However, when I ask them why these 3 candidates are likely to leave, or their last 3 candidates left or were fired, it's never because they couldn't do the job in the first place. Because if it's a technical role in engineering, they're not going to hire a barber. Okay, so obviously they've hired for that job. It's always behavioral reasons. It's always something to do with aptitude or attitude or behaviors or their stability or their judgment or something along those lines. So the simple question is, well, in your job description and in your interviewing process, how are you testing for these failures? And you could hear a pin drop almost all of the time because they're just not doing it. So would it make logical sense to actually implement some processes and systems at an earlier stage to try and find out whether or not, these candidates are going to work out long term in your business? So there's various different processes and sales techniques that we go through, not to be clever, but to really truly understand what their problems are. And obviously over the years, we've knew this for a long time, so you can kind of smell it a mile off in terms of where the problems lie, but nonetheless, you've still got to go through that consultative piece and make sure that you're not missing anything. And then the discussion doesn't actually become about, well, we can find you 5 candidates next week. It becomes about addressing these issues so that if you hire 10 people, that what are we going to do to ensure that we're doing everything we can within our powers, that we're using technology and we're using processes to achieve a predictable outcome, let's say.
Yeah.
And guess what? Almost always they see sense. Like it's just a eureka moment. It's a light bulb moment. And imagine how different you are from all of the other recruiters that, and we show them what we do. And of course, for those that don't really know what the technology does, it wraps everything up in one place with various different levels of assessment and methodology, even things like video introductions from the candidates. Now, when that's all pieced together and that's demonstrated to a board of individuals who are making hiring decisions, they can actually see the value. They can see what happens, because recruitment's a very it's the opposite to tangible, isn't it? It's a service. It's I'd like to leave here with a check for £10,000, and I'm only going to tell you what you're going to get. Let's show them, let's evidence, and more often than not, then they want to work with you.
Yeah, I think, Paul, if you look at where most recruiters see opportunities in the market to get into a new client, somebody else has failed. Yeah. So because when a person leaves, as a hiring manager, they probably look to abdicate the blame. I know what you said about it's not good. So who are they going to blame? They're going to blame the recruiter. Yeah. Well, so are they going to go back to that recruiter? Well, of course not. And I think what this really does very nicely when you do offer this value add service, this differentiation of offering up, and we should stress it's up to 12 months. It's part of the negotiation that you mentioned, Paul. But when we're offering that, it actually makes you're saying to the client, I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you throughout this process. And by the way, it gives you a great reason to stay in touch with them, because you've got a vested interest in this person still being there. But I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder. And should something go wrong, not that we're expecting it to, I will replace that person for you. And it's almost unbelievable. Paul, but I do remember you telling me about a role that you were working on in the US. Sorry, it was a group of roles. And somebody got to the 11-month stage, and for one reason or another, we won't go into they were fired. And I think the client is sort of almost in disbelief, said, I know we've got this replacement thing. Is it real?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it is. I mean, I did check the dates, but yeah. No.
But it makes you sticky, doesn't it? It makes you sticky, because think about it, from the client side. So yes, you really are going to do the work again, free of charge on that particular role. Caveats aside, redundancies are made there.
The moment you do that, you've got a client for life.
Exactly the point I was going to make, Paul.
They may disbelieve that it's true, but you do it, and you do it to the best of your ability, and they're never going to go anywhere else. So it's worth it on that. It's worth it on that basis alone.
Yeah, and next time they're hiring, they're not going to blame you. They're going to say, okay, we need to hire somebody else, a new business development director. They're going to come to you. When
it becomes a partnership, even when things do go wrong, and things go wrong in recruitment all the time, don't they? They go wrong in search. You're not paying enough, or your expectations are too high, or you're in the wrong location, or whatever. And I think that's a really important part of a retained partnership. It's being able to go out to market with the best of intentions, and again, evidence if there's a challenge, if you've got hurdles, obstacles, be able to go back and present to them what the challenges are on the marketplace. Now, it's not anybody's fault. It's just circumstantial. So what can we compromise on? Can we compromise on location? Can we compromise on salary? Can we compromise on expectation? It's a team effort. And I think one of the really important points, James, is that where a lot of recruitment assignments fall down is that we go out with the best of intentions. We put candidates forward fully assessed, as it were. And they go through an interview process, and you think everything's going well. The candidate gives you good feedback, and then you go to get feedback from the client, and 2 out of the 3 interviewers really like the candidate, but one of them says, "Oh, I'm not so sure. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but I just don't get that fuzzy feeling about them.
Yeah.
I think we should go back to the drawing board." So one of the things that we do throughout the intro process, of course, is we work with a behavioural assessment partner, and that makes sure that all of the hiring team are on the same page from outset. Now, you go through this exercise with them, I suppose, as part of your pitch. It's something that you can offer for free. It doesn't carry a cost to you or to them, but it's something that's really valuable, and it can help them build that really important job description that's probably been written by HR and is on one side of A4 that we've seen a million times, but turning that into something that's compelling, that talks about the company, the history, the opportunity, the behaviours, putting that together in a nice document looks great, so that when you do go to the candidates, they've got something of real substance that's really engaging. And all of that is all part of the closing process of winning a retained assignment, that where you're going to charge them 30% or whatever your terms may be. So I always think that's important, getting them on the same page right from the beginning. That process of consultancy is part of what's differentiating you from the other recruiter that's saying, I can find you some CVs really quick.
Well, to keep it on topic, Paul. Sorry, Joe, after you.
No, go on. I often say to people when they're saying about when they're building the retained side of their business, if they're still running a contingent side of their business, I say, look, work on the contingent piece and then get up from your desk, travel a mile down the road and open a different office down there. And that's where you build your retained methodology from, because it's so different. You can't take contingent and go, oh, I'll just add a bit and then add 5% and ask them for, a third up front. It's a whole different mindset, isn't it, Paul? It's a whole different way of thinking. And it's not just a different mindset for the recruiters, it's for the clients as well. I know there's a lot of clients who have been conditioned to believe that this traditional contingent style of recruitment is normal. I mean, it is normal, but it's not optimal. And I'm very passionate. I know everyone at iIntro is very passionate about, recruitment consultants being able to go out there and show clients that there is a different way. But it takes planning, and it does take infrastructure, like you've said. Otherwise, it just becomes this conceptual sales process of trust me, I know what I'm doing. Which you're not going to get the high fee retained on that. Are you?
It takes a lot of training, doesn't it, and a change in mindset, which is obviously all part of the iIntro offering. And I think when we started the iIntro business, we just offered this tech platform, and it worked for some people because they were really invested and made it work, but it failed for a lot of people as well. That was a learning curve for us. So that's when we set up the training team, obviously over time led by James and yourself, Joe. And obviously we offer a lot of training, coaching, a lot of material. It's like a university, really, isn't it? And people can go through that at their own pace, can't they? If someone's on a fast track, they can get through that in a month or so. Obviously, if it's something that's a longer burner and they can't quite commit to the time, they can spread it over a year or whatever works for them. But it's really important that training takes place, and that's the point, isn't it? Us and all the other iIntro clients that have come before have all, we've learned from each other, haven't we? And we've compiled everything into a bottle and made it available for others.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, a lot of people who come to us have already sort of made the mental leap, haven't they? They come to us as born out of frustration. Normally, the amount of people who we have when we do the introductions in the training, and they say, there's got to be a better way, because they're frustrated. It's not helping them to scale their recruitment business. But also, a lot of them are frustrated because they're not providing the service they want to provide to their clients. And also, we have to say to candidates, because working in this way, in this bespoke, retained, much more consultative way, is such a better experience for the candidates. I mean, that's a whole other session that we need to do on why this benefits candidates. But let's face it, it does. So we have people who come to us and it's just born out of frustration, and they know they want to do it. They just don't know how. They don't know how to make the transition over to retained,
it's a hard psychological step, going from what is essentially CV sending. Have you got a vacancy? Yes. What are you looking for? Can I send you some CVs? So there's different formats of that, but essentially that's what it is. So, let's slow this down. Mm-hmm. Let's look at where the problems are. Let's look at why they're arising. Let's look at how we can address them. And let's look at doing two things, which is obviously reducing your commercial downtime so that you give us the responsibility for getting this right. And we reduce your cost to hire. Doesn't mean we're cheaper. What it means is that if less people leave, then you're going to be saving substantial amounts of money. Our fee is one of the smallest elements where the saving might come. Let's say they're paying a recruiter, we pay 17%. Even if we're 30%, 40%, 50%, we're still going to be a lot cheaper because we can evidence what's going to happen very, very likely in terms of somebody leaving or staying. And obviously with the replacement policy as well, should that go wrong. Another point as well, which I thought about a few moments ago, Joe triggered something, which was you can use the replacement policy as a negotiation. So you can say, well, it's assume we're working together. So that's the first thing, be assumptive. We can offer you our fees are 30% with a 12-month replacement policy, 27.5% with a 6-month replacement policy, or it's 25% with a 3-month replacement policy. Which would you prefer? Broadly, everybody's got their own iteration of that. And you give them a choice, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to select one, and you're going to be working together.
Yeah.
And then you've got to do a really good job.
Exactly. Yeah. Then you've got to do the job.
Yeah.
Paul, we were coming around to in terms of just wanted to bring it back on topic and answer one of the questions out there and things, and perhaps the title is not meant to be misleading, but the title wasn't why do 99% of recruitment firms don't offer free replacements, and Angela has suggested that actually hundreds, if not thousands, in her experience do, and I'm not denying that, but the free replacement is often on a very, very time limited basis, Angela. That's our experience. And obviously, when you talk about the hundreds or thousands, based in the UK, there are 32,000 firms, 250,000 recruitment firms worldwide. So it's still the vast minority that offer something. So what we're talking about is an extended free replacement offer of up to 12 months. And in some cases, as Paul mentioned, up to 24 months. And the reason you can do that is because you know the value of your service, you know the worth of your service in terms of by measuring those stats, so you can actually stand side to side. But a great point, Angela. Thank you very much for both listening and commenting.
There's nothing wrong with saying that as well. I use that. I see we'll offer up to 24 months replacement policy. Now, come on, of course, we're going to Marks and Spencer's and it's up to 80% off, but there's never much that's 80% off, is there? So, I'm not trying to deceive anybody by saying that, but you can make that claim. And if someone's willing to pay you 35% and it's a senior role and it falls into the criteria that suits you because your terms and conditions and it's your choice, then we have offered 24-month replacement policies. Never had to replace one actually, because you just know that at senior level, if it's the right thing, the chances are very, very, very slim.
Yeah. Well, listen, Andrew's point is a fair point, and as I said, and I sort of touched on earlier with you, Paul, that a lot of time we see the sliding scale rebate, which is typically 3 months sliding scale, and you say, well, really, clients don't particularly want that. They do want the free replacement. And Andrew's saying, it's possibly up to 3 months. And what we're saying, absolutely fantastic, because that's when most people feel that the highest risk comes. But actually, one of the things we talk about a lot is when we try and identify when candidates or employees leave. In the first 3 months, everyone's on their best behaviour. So, actually, it happens in months 6 to 12. And what we're saying is we can help employers mitigate that risk by actually standing shoulder to shoulder with them. But so we're not saying people don't, but they don't offer extended free replacement or what we call a recruitment risk reversal policy that we can help people with. So, Andrew, it'd be great to have a catch up with you at some point, either myself or Joe. We'll try and connect with you just to sort of further that debate with you. But I do appreciate that. Joe, if you just want to summarise some of the points, because I think Paul's made a lot of points today, but obviously, what we're talking about is, what can you do in your business that's going to make you stand out from the crowd, differentiate yourself, and put yourself out there. But what are the key takeaways that you heard from Paul?
I think it's been a brilliant session. I think we could talk forever, and we definitely have to have you back on. I think the key takeaways for me definitely been, recruitment businesses need to go and have a look at their own stats. They need to be able to measure it. Only once you're measuring it, will you truly know whether this is something that you can offer. If you've got brilliant retention, then this definitely should be something that you can offer, because it's a no-brainer. If you haven't, then I suppose as a business, the other takeaway is, go back through your process and think, okay, what do we actually do that enables clients to make more informed hiring decisions so that we can work in partnership? So I think that's probably a deeper diagnosis that a business might have to do. But is it going to differentiate you? Yes. Very rarely in recruitment now do we have unique selling points or something that's a real showstopper that clients look at and go, that's what I want. That cuts through the white noise of all these other sort of feature selling that a lot of recruiters do. And I genuinely think that if you've got the processes and you've got the measurements and you've got stuff in place to be able to do this, then it is going to differentiate you from a lot of those other recruiters that are out there, even just from an identity perspective. So I think there's a lot for us to think about. James, key takeaways for you?
Well, key takeaways for me is it's about identifying how you're going to make yourself stand out from the crowd, which you sort of touched on there, Joe. So I think that's really important to understand. Again, I know a lot of people have this fear of offering extended placement, and that fear is born out of actually not understanding your stats. Yeah. So as you said, Joe, go away, sort of measure your own stats, and if you think that it's evaluate what's the cost and the risk to my business of me offering something totally different to the vast majority of the market. Because if everyone's offering 3 months, well, that soon becomes the norm. And we've started to see this. 6 months is now stretching. 12 months is still an outstanding offer for many employers to listen to, which will make them sit up and listen. Say, well, how can you do that? And you can do that because you offer a situation which shows that you're putting your money where your mouth is. Just one final little question which has come in there from Mandy is what happens if you're a new business? Well, again, I think one of the areas, obviously you won't have that statistic, and again, one of the benefits we have of working within the iIntro network, plug here coming, Mandy, is obviously you can say that people who are in our network are utilizing the same methodology and process off of that, and having that confidence means that you can offer that, because the client's not interested in the 96% statistic. They're actually interested in the benefit, which is we're actually offering you a 12 months. So even if you're new and you're prepared to offer that, because the process, the methodology, the fact you use multiple layers of scientific and objective assessment, not just about candidate identification, means that you can offer that with a degree of confidence and come through from them. You want to make
not only that, James, typically new businesses in recruitment are not just new businesses. It's somebody that's come from another recruitment company, or they've come from an industry that they know. So they've got contacts, they've got people that they can go and talk to. Going and talking to them about iIntro, about the iIntro process, about the larger network is really powerful. And it's a pitch, of course, but you're going in there and you're asking for the help. Can I just come and show you? I'd value your opinion. I'm considering working in this way, or I've decided this is how I'm going to shape my business. As a hiring manager or a business professional, can I come and take your feedback and ask for your opinion? Would you prefer a stack of CVs that look like this, or would you prefer something on this platform that with all these assessments and videos and all these bells and whistles that ultimately result in X, Y, Z? What would you prefer? It's a no-brainer. So they're probably going to be your first clients in your new business.
Indeed. Well, listen, we've overrun a little bit because the topic is it's an interesting topic. We've flashed up on various times. If you want to sort of have a chat with us, you can book a call with us, meet up with our team. Angela, we love the debate as well, so we'll keep that going. So listen, I'd just like to say, Paul, appreciate all of the input you've provided us with today, the insight if true value. I hope people listening have seen how what you've done in your business over the last 10, 12 years. 13 years in terms of since you developed this new process.
I don't look old enough, do I, James?
What's that?
But I don't look old enough, do I?
No, not at all.
Move past that
Follow the
point.
StreamYard filter.
Oh dear.
But yeah,
thanks for having me. And I'm just going to say, James, I'm on. Sorry, there's a slight delay. If anybody wants to connect on LinkedIn or start a debate and get things going on there, that'd be brilliant. I think for a lot of people probably who are attending this call, it's all quite theoretical, isn't it, at this stage? But I can honestly say, hand on heart, for me and for a lot of people in our network, it does work. It's just about the right proposition. That's all it is. A few tweaks here and there.
Yeah, same. I think
Right, well,
from myself and James as well. Anyone who's listening or watching on the recording, if you have any questions, if this has raised more questions than it's answered, which it normally does, and you kind of go away quizzing about things, just reach out. We're always happy to help. We're always happy to, give advice where we think we can. So yeah, everybody's welcome. Connect with us on LinkedIn.
So we'll wrap up. Everybody, thanks very much. Anne-Marie, thanks for your comments. Angela, Mandy, all of you, it's been great having you sort of listening. Thank you, Aldrin. So it's a goodbye from all of us.
Thank you.
So it's goodbye from me.
Yeah, it's goodbye from me. And Paul, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
And one last thing before we go. We're back in 2 weeks' time. We're going to be talking about all things marketing. So, hey, that's going to be lots of things to talk about. So, if you can join us, please do look out for it. No doubt you'll see invites on LinkedIn and all the usual places. So, thanks very much for watching, everybody. Have a fabulous week. Enjoy the end of the month, and hopefully summer will return to the UK next month. See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.